Good morning from the office. I'm BKP, North Georgia's only live online morning show. I want to apologize to my dear friend here, Josh Teague. I got it backwards, folks. Actually, Lonnie did. I figure somehow Lonnie did this somehow, okay? But yes, we are going to have all of the probate judge candidates here. And I kind of got it a little backwards. Mr. Teague is my 8:30 guest. I apologize to you, Mr. Teague.
No problem, Brian.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been called worse things than Susan before. So thank you for having me here.
This is Gilmer County probate judge candidate Josh Teague. And what we're doing, good to have you there, Mr. Teague. What we're doing is we're for the next week, we're getting as many candidates for as many races, just basically to come in and ask for people's votes. And if somebody, I know you have done a lot of forums and debates and meet and greet and handshaking and ads, but if there's just somebody out there that hasn't got an opportunity to meet you, we want to have more of a personal 15-minute conversation. You're currently an attorney. You're from Gilmer County. Family lives here in Gilmer County, and you're currently a practicing attorney here in Gilmer County?
That's right. I've been in practice here in Gilmer County for over 5 years with John Mahan at Mahan and Associates. I'm from Gilmer County, lived here my whole life. My family's lived here back before the Civil War. My wife's family's from here. So this is home for us. This is where our roots are. Before I went into private practice, I completed internships with two of our Superior Court judges, Chief Judge Brenda Weaver and Judge Roger Bradley, who just retired. And before doing that, I went into a internship program with the United States Attorney's Office. And when I was in high school, I actually started when I was 17 years old working at Clark & Clark with Herman and David Clark, Barry Lee over there. I worked through college there up until I started law school. So one way or the other, I have been involved in the legal field since I was 17 years old. So this is a passion of mine. It's something I feel passionately about, and I have for all of my adult life. And really the reason I got into this race, probably the question I hear most often is, well, why did you do that? Why did you get into this race? Why are you running for probate judge? I feel like the county needs someone with the experience and with the qualifications that I bring. And now I like Judge Mullins that's in there now. I'm not saying anything bad about her or anybody we've had in the office before, but as time goes on, the duties of the court have changed somewhat, what they address, how serious those issues have become, and how complicated they've become has changed. And, you know, every county in this state that has over 96,000 people, you're required to have a licensed attorney serve as the probate judge. Now, we're a smaller county, so we don't have that requirement, but we have the same cases that a county with 96,000 people has. We have the same kind of cases that Gwinnett County or Fulton County has. You know, our probate court last year here in Gilmer County heard over 1,300 criminal cases, around 250 estate and guardianship matters, and had about 120 or so wills that came through that were either probated or administered. And those are really serious matters, especially to the people that are in front of the court on that. You know, every one of those cases, the judge gets to decide, does somebody go to jail? Do they have to pay a fine? Do they get committed to a mental institution or a nursing home against their will? The judge can give away total decision-making authority to another person over someone. The judge can say, Brian, you're not allowed to make your own medical decisions anymore. You're not allowed to make your own financial decisions anymore, and give that power to somebody else. So those are really serious things, and the judge has a really important role there. You may have an attorney in the court arguing the case, but it's actually up to the judge to decide what happens. So I feel like that just because we live in a small county, you don't deserve a different level of protection under the law as somebody in Fulton County. You know, if you go to court, you deserve to have someone who's practiced law, who understands law, who's been certified by the state of Georgia that they're competent in the law to hear your case and make your decision.
Well, you know, Josh, you brought up a lot of big issues that require serious decisions, and I must agree on that. There's a lot of serious decisions, and I will say to you, when I said to somebody, I think when the race started, the campaign started, I said, I want to get the 4 candidates together and I want to ask them some questions. And somebody says, probate judge, what do you want to know about a probate judge? And I got to thinking, if you know what actually decisions come before these people in the course of the day, you may be more interested in who you vote for probate judge. Maybe, so I think it's a serious decision that the people have to make. And I think in all due respect, you're valid when you say, Judge Mullins is chose to retire, but things are changing. Actually, judges today are walking in. They're probably saying today, "Oh Lord, what's going to come before this bench this morning, or what's somebody going to say in the different world we live in, as we both understand." Let me ask you a question. Why do you think the state? You said 96,000. Is it 96,000? Why do you think the state has put 96,000 as the threshold requiring the probate judge to be a licensed practicing attorney? Why do you think they've used that number for a threshold, and why haven't they moved that down to 36,000 or 50,000 or adjusted it down for the seriousness of things you bring up? What's your thought on that?
Well, it's an arbitrary number, 96,000. I don't know where they came up with that number at. The explanation I've been given when I've asked people that might have been involved in a similar process or changing that process is simply that the very rural counties in South Georgia, where there are just a handful of people, one stoplight kind of towns, there may not be an attorney that would take that position. They may have an attorney serving 2 or 3 towns or counties, and that could be an issue there. I really don't understand how it's an issue here. And quite frankly, even in a county where you only have 1 or 2 attorneys, they have a judge, and the judge is qualified just like our judge here in Gilmer County is. They're Superior Court judge. So I feel the same should apply to your probate judge. If you have somebody who gets to decide if they can take away your life, liberty, or property, and in this case, I'm not meaning put you in jail with a death penalty, but they can put you in jail.
Right.
That is a serious matter, and I don't understand how you can really have somebody performing that job who doesn't have the training. The probate court judge at the end of this election, whoever is elected, they'll get a 40-hour training class, and that's not 40 credit hours. That's Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, 1 week, 40 hours. And the question I've asked people is, can you train someone to do your job in 40 hours? And so far, I haven't had anybody tell me yes. That's a serious responsibility to have somebody come in after they've had 40 hours of training and decide if you should go to jail or decide if your will should be invalid and everything you've ever worked for your entire life now goes to somebody you didn't mean to have it, or if you should go be put in a mental institution or somebody should be able to put you in a nursing home. I would like to have someone with more than a week's worth of experience come in and make that decision if it's my case.
I think you've done a very good job articulating the seriousness of the position and what can come before a judge and some of the serious decisions that will be made. You have the authority to make decisions over people's liberty, and their rights. So I think you've done a good job articulating that and the reasons why you feel the position should have somebody what you feel the qualifications should be. But I think you and I both know, okay, with all of that said, the number one question I get, and I think the number one question you have gotten through the campaign is, will you be a full-time probate judge? Now, I think you would agree that's a fair question because it's probably one of the biggest questions you've had throughout the campaign. Is it correct?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought this up because I want to kind of clear the air on this issue. I think there's been a lot of discussion about this and maybe some misinformation on this as well. I was the first candidate to announce on this race, and since I announced, I have been consistent in my answer that yes, I will be a full-time probate judge. And there's been some discussion of whether you're going to be full-time or 100% full-time. Well, you're either full-time or you're not. And I have promised that I will be there when the court's open. I'm going to keep regular business hours. I will be a full-time judge. There's no way to be more full-time than full-time. I will be as full-time as anybody that has ever held that position before. And really, when it comes to this issue, you know, after business hours are over, everybody goes home. Everybody does something else. Somebody may go home and fish. Somebody may go race go-karts, or just go home and watch Netflix or catch up on Fetch Your News. You know, after business hours, I can't say what I'll be doing. But when the court's open, I'll keep regular business hours. And if you need me at 3 in the morning, if there's an emergency, you can call me. Just a couple of Sundays ago, I got a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning from a client. I was at my office at 3:10 working on an emergency, and I had it resolved by lunchtime for them. I will bring that same dedication to the people of Gilmer County. You know, I've always been hardworking. I've always committed myself to whatever I'm going to do. I don't think you'll find anybody that would ever tell you anything different. And that's the commitment I'm making to the people of this county. I want to be your full-time probate judge. And really, when it comes to this issue, I don't think I've taken a position that's any different than any other candidates. And you know, I can't speak for them necessarily other than what they've said, but Susan Keener said she's going to be a full-time probate judge. And I believe her, and Andrew Lohman has. I believe him. Scott Chastain said he's going to be a full-time probate judge. He's going to keep his business, and he'll go on the weekends and the evenings and catch up there. I don't have any reason not to believe him. I'm not prepared to say that any of them are not telling the truth, that any of them are lying. If anyone else in the race is prepared to say that, then it's an issue where there's a difference. But otherwise, I think every candidate has taken the position that they'll be a full-time probate judge.
Well, I think obviously you work very hard to obtain your law license, and you put a lot of time into it, and you work very hard to obtain a law license, and it would be understandable you're going to maintain your law license. But I guess on the full time, some would say, and I've been asked this, yes, you'll maintain your law license, but will you continue to practice law outside of the probate judge office? And I think when somebody just says, will you be a full-time probate judge? I believe you'll be a full-time, I do this, or somebody goes and works somewhere full-time today, and I respect your answer and have no reason to question that. I think sometimes what is questioned, or the question I get is, obviously you'll keep your law license, but will you continue to practice law? And I think that's what the question on full-time is. So.
And I think, you know, the most honest and fair answer I can give you there is what I've said. I will maintain my name with the firm I'm at now. I'll be at the probate court when court's open. We brought a girl in when I decided to run for this office back in 2014. And we started interviewing people at that point to come in and pick up the slack of what I've been doing. And we hired Rebecca Kendrick in 2015, and she's been with us since early 2015. If she needs me to come in the evening and review something that she's done, to give her some more guidance on some things, or if I'm asked to, you know, prepare a document or look at a letter or make a phone call after hours, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do that. What I can say is I will never do anything that would take away from my duties or responsibilities at the probate court. I'm not going to do anything that would interfere with my full-time job, which would be being the probate court.
Well, Mr. Teague, we know, and I talked to you last night, I know you have to be somewhere in short order here. So in wrapping up, our goal today is just to have this one opportunity. We're going to cut this little segment here, and we're going to put up just an opportunity to meet candidates, and it will be on FetcherNews.com here later this afternoon, and you'll have all week to get a little closer with these candidates and get to know them. Any last things today as far as you would like to convey to the voters out there on the reason they should pull the lever for Josh Teague on the 24th?
There's one more thing I'd like to address, one more thing I'd like to kind of clear the air on, which is the issue of conflicts, which has been brought up lately, and I've had a couple people address that with me. And it's another thing I think there's kind of a misunderstanding about. You know, there's no part of being an attorney or nothing special about being an attorney that could cause a conflict for a judge. So when there's a conflict in front of a judge, that conflict is caused by one of two things, either a relationship or knowledge. So either you have some relationship with this person or party that's in front of you, or you have some special knowledge about the issue or the party that's coming in front of you. And that applies to all 4 of the candidates in this race. You have relationships with clients because I'm an attorney. If you own a business, you have a relationship with your customers. If somebody's paying you and they appear in your court, it can look improper for you to hear that case. If someone has paid you in the past and they appear in your court, it can look improper. If you work somewhere, even if that person isn't paying you directly, but they're a client of the business you work for, or the office you work for, again, you may have some special knowledge about them or a case they were involved in or an issue they were involved in. That causes a conflict. You have conflicts with people that you go to church with. You have conflicts with family members. If you're in clubs, people that are in your clubs, people you just know out in the community. If you and I are going in front of a judge, Brian, and I go to church with the judge and we're having a contested case, you're not going to feel real good about the judge making a decision and ruling in my favor knowing I go see the guy every Sunday. It doesn't look right. So there are a lot of issues that can come up that can cause a conflict. And I really don't think this is anything that someone should base their vote on, because everybody's going to have a conflict. It's impossible to have a judge who doesn't, and it's impossible to say one person's going to have more or less conflicts. Conflicts are just based off your relationships with people, and everybody has those relationships.
You know, the good part of that is we still live in rural counties where conflict in some ways is very good to where we live because of the problem we have. We go to Ingalls and we still say hello to half a dozen people before we can get out of the store because we know each other. And that is the joy of living in the rural counties. But on the judge's side, it's thoroughly understand. It is a struggle for anybody that would be in the offices not to have some people relationships, business with, whatever. So I think I understand what you're saying on that. I have people say to me, you know everybody. I said, no, I don't know everybody, but I know everybody. But it's just like, but I appreciate that. One last word, anything before you run over to where you got to go this morning?
Yeah, well, just thank you for having me on, Brian. I encourage everybody to look at the candidate's education, look at the candidate's experience, listen to what we've had to say, watch the debate that Brian put on with Fetch Your News, watch the clips from the forums we've had. I've been involved in the law since I was 17 years old. I feel like I'm the most experienced candidate in this race. Been with 2 Superior Court judges, U.S. Attorney's Office, practiced law for myself for over 5 years. And I'll bring my dedication, I'll bring my experience to serve the people of Gilmer County, because I feel like that's what we need and that's what I'm here to do.
Mr. Teague, I will tell you this, I do pick up the passion from you. So,
Thank
Josh
you, Brian.
Teague, I appreciate it. This has been, we've had Josh Teague, Gilmer County probate judge candidate, here with us this morning. And don't forget, this Saturday, early voting has started, but this Saturday is Saturday voting in Georgia. And then May 24th is actually primary day. And you will be able to see this clip and share it all around Facebook here, maybe 3 or 4 this afternoon, but definitely sometime tomorrow for the next week to get to know these candidates. Again, thank you very much for coming in,
Thank
Mr.
you, Brian.
Teague. Lonnie, take us to break. We'll be right back after these brief messages.